You have a deadline, you know it's important, but instead of starting, you open your phone, scroll for a while, maybe clean your room, anything but the actual task. Why does this keep happening? If this sounds like you, you're not alone. Studies show that around 20% of adults are chronic procrastinators, and nearly everyone procrastinates on something. In this video, we'll dive into the neuroscience behind procrastination. You'll learn why your brain is wired to put things off, and what you can actually do about it. First, let's clear something up. Procrastination is not laziness. Lazy people simply don't care. Procrastinators care a lot, sometimes too much. That's actually part of the problem. Researchers now understand that procrastination is fundamentally an emotion regulation problem, not a time management problem. You're not avoiding the task, you're avoiding the negative feelings associated with it. Deep inside your brain sits a small almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. It's your brain's alarm system. When you face a task that feels stressful, boring, or overwhelming, the amygdala fires up. When the amygdala activates, it triggers your fight or flight response. Your brain sees the task as a threat, and procrastination becomes the flight. Meanwhile, your prefrontal cortex, the rational planning part of your brain, is trying to keep you on track. It knows the task is important. It knows the deadline is approaching, so you have two systems fighting each other. The amygdala screaming, "Avoid the pain now," and the prefrontal cortex saying, "But we need to do this." When stress is high, the amygdala usually wins. There's another powerful force at play: temporal discounting. Your brain values immediate rewards far more than future rewards. This is called present bias. The pleasure of scrolling your phone right now feels more real and more valuable than the satisfaction of finishing your project next week. Scientists describe this with something called the hyperbolic discounting curve. The further away a deadline is, the less motivated you feel. But as the deadline approaches, motivation suddenly spikes. That's why so many people do their best work the night before a deadline. It's not that they perform better under pressure. It's that their brain finally perceives the threat as immediate. Dopamine also plays a crucial role. When you procrastinate and do something enjoyable instead, your brain gets a quick dopamine hit. It feels like a reward, even though you haven't accomplished anything. This creates a feedback loop. You feel stressed about a task. You avoid it. You feel temporary relief. That relief reinforces the avoidance behavior. Perfectionism is one of the biggest drivers of procrastination. If you believe your work must be flawless, the fear of producing something imperfect becomes paralyzing. Behind perfectionism often hides a deeper fear, the fear of failure. If you never start, you can never fail. Your brain uses procrastination as a protective shield. There's also the fear of judgment. What will others think of my work? What if it's not good enough? These social fears activate the same threat response in the amygdala. Here's where it gets worse. The more you procrastinate, the more anxious you feel about the task. And the more anxious you feel, the more you want to avoid it. It becomes a spiral. And what do most people do? They beat themselves up. Why can't I just do it? What's wrong with me? But self-criticism actually makes procrastination worse. It increases negative emotions, which increases avoidance. Research has identified several types of tasks we're most likely to procrastinate on. Tasks that are boring, difficult, ambiguous, unstructured, or lacking personal meaning. You've probably experienced this. You genuinely intend to start working. You plan your day, you set an alarm, but when the moment comes, you just don't do it. Scientists call this the intention-action gap. So now that we understand why procrastination happens, let's talk about what actually works to overcome it. These are evidence-based strategies from psychology and neuroscience research. Strategy 1, the 5-minute rule. Tell yourself you only have to work on the task for 5 minutes. That's it. Just 5 minutes. Why does this work? Because starting is the hardest part. Once you begin, your brain shifts from threat mode to task mode. The amygdala calms down and the prefrontal cortex takes over. Most people end up working much longer than 5 minutes. Strategy 2. Break the task into tiny pieces. A big project feels overwhelming, but write one paragraph or research for 10 minutes feels manageable. When you break a task into smaller steps, you reduce the threat level that the amygdala perceives. Each small step feels safe, achievable, and non-threatening. Strategy 3. Use implementation intentions. Instead of saying, "I'll work on my project tomorrow," say, "At 9 a.m., I will sit at my desk and open the document." Be specific about when, where, and what. Research shows that people who use implementation intentions are 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through. The specific plan bypasses the decision-making process that triggers procrastination. Strategy 4. Practice self-compassion. This might sound soft, but the science is clear. People who forgive themselves for procrastinating are less likely to procrastinate in the future. A landmark study by Michael Wohl found that students who forgave themselves for procrastinating on their first exam procrastinated less on the next one. Self-compassion breaks the guilt avoidance cycle. Strategy 5. Temptation bundling. Pair something you need to do with something you enjoy. Only listen to your favorite podcast while working out. Only drink your special coffee while studying. This works because it adds an immediate reward to a task that only has delayed rewards. You're giving your brain the dopamine hit it craves while still getting important work done. Strategy 6. Design your environment for action. Remove friction from the tasks you want to do and add friction to the things you want to avoid. For example, if you want to stop scrolling social media, log out of all apps and delete them from your home screen. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Strategy 7. Create meaningful rewards. After completing a task, give yourself something to look forward to. A treat, a walk, an episode of your favorite show. This trains your brain to associate completing tasks with pleasure. Over time, the anticipation of the reward itself becomes motivating. You're essentially rewiring your dopamine system. Strategy 8. Use accountability. Tell someone about your goal. Work alongside others. Join a study group. When you know someone else is watching, the social pressure helps override the amygdala. Here's a profound insight from research. Motivation doesn't come before action. It comes after. You don't wait to feel motivated to start. You start, and then motivation follows. Action creates momentum. Once you take that first small step, your brain begins releasing dopamine for making progress. Each small win builds on the last. Another powerful technique: reframe how you think about the task. Instead of "I have to write this report," try "I get to share my ideas." Instead of "I must study," try "I'm building my future." Reframing changes how the amygdala responds. When you see a task as an opportunity rather than a threat, the emotional resistance decreases dramatically. Remember, progress, not perfection. A bad first draft is infinitely better than no draft at all. You can always improve something that exists. You can't improve nothing. Let's recap. Procrastination is an emotion regulation problem, not a character flaw. Your amygdala hijacks your rational brain. Present bias makes future rewards feel unreal. But with the right strategies, the 5-minute rule, breaking tasks down, self-compassion, and environment design, you can rewire your response. So here's your challenge. After this video ends, pick one thing you've been putting off. Set a timer for 5 minutes and just begin. You might be surprised at what happens next. If you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Understanding your brain is the first step to mastering it. See you in the next video.